7 years ago, my wife and I thought we found an incredible deal. Turns out it was one of the most expensive mistakes we've ever made. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Matt Chenard, leadership and business consultant. I help entrepreneurs buy back time and make more money so they can spend their time doing what they love to do. Instead of owning a time-stealing liability, they can produce and create a cash flowing asset. So this is day 5 of my 5 times a week YouTube long form video challenge to get better at creating, to tell more stories, and to share my thoughts, share my ideas, so I can connect with more amazing people like all of you. So thanks for being here. Let's chat about this. Coming to you live from our backyard sauna, one of my favorite places in our house. And yeah, really grateful for this. Thank you for Jaleesa. Thank you to Jaleesa for letting me build this. Okay, so today I want to share a little bit of a story of why cheap isn't always better. That maybe it's not always good to shop for a bargain. So we've lived in our house for about 8 years, I believe. It was built in 1984. When we bought it, we knew we'd have to replace the shingles eventually. So we were young. 4 years into our marriage, just bought the first house. I guess it'd be 5 years into our marriage. 6, doesn't matter as much as early married, first home. We had some things to fix, some things that we wanted to do. I was working, the business was growing, scaling. Jaleesa was a full-time nurse at the time, and we decided, hey, pretty soon we're going to replace our shingles on our roof. And it just so happened that this company was driving around our neighborhood, driving around our block, and was offering a great deal. So we had been price shopping a little bit, not too much because we weren't ready to invest in it, but we had seen a few people getting their shingles done, the roofs done. Roof, however you say it in the US, roof, there you go. Getting their shingles done, and I thought, hey, let's inquire about this. And actually they came out to our door. We didn't go talk to them. My parents had got theirs done. They're happy. Everything was fine. So we got it done. It was a smoking deal. We were looking for a good deal. And as always, someone does, right? And at the time, before I learned this valuable lesson, I have a little bit different mindset about all this. So they did the work. I can't remember if it was really overall fast or not. Did the work, shingles, hey, they're a different color. They weren't curling up. Thought nothing of it. And all of a sudden, something started to leak in our home. And that next week, I stepped on a nail outside. Okay, maybe they missed a few nails. Started finding nails all over the yard. And then it started to leak. Went up there, and I've done construction work, framing, and electrical work, but I have not done any roofing or shingle work. And I could tell this did not look right. So they did a terrible job. And to give you a little backstory on me, I'm someone that if a waiter or waitress comes to me in the restaurant and says, "How is your meal?" I'll say, "Great." I'm not trying to be deceitful. Even if it's not great, I'll say great. It's just a natural reaction to me, and I don't like to have conflict. If it's really bad and they need to know about it because it's gonna hurt their business, I'll tell them. But if it's more or less not amazing. So I guess as I talk through this, I'm thinking that maybe is not honest. I could say it was all right. Anyway, I digress. So for me to get really upset and call this company multiple times and try to search them out is a big deal. So we had spent a couple $1,000s to do our shingles. You're expecting a good job. And long story short, I found out this company had left town. And the more digging I did, I found out that they had done this in multiple small towns around us, changing names, dissolving the company, and just basically finding cheap labor and doing really bad jobs for the cash, and then skipping town so no one could leave bad reviews and changing the name so no one could find them. So I got a hold of him once. I said, hey, you gotta come fix this. He said, yeah. Never was able to get a hold of him ever again and couldn't find out. So we were left with a bad shingle job. And we approached a local company here and asked if they could help us. And I 100% get this. They were apprehensive because they'd be fixing something that was a bad job, which I totally understand. But I had a long conversation, so they fixed our shingles and they did an amazing job. So that company was amazing. But they had to fix something. We had to spend a lot more money to do the job right. Now, when all was said and done, my guess is we could have just hired a really good company for high value and been sure that our shingles would have been perfect and paid about the same amount, rather than searching for a cheap option instead of bargaining and saying, and there's a time and place for that. I understand that. But some things you want to seek out the highest value person. Money is an exchange of value, right? And there can be swindlers out there that charge a lot of money and do a really poor job. But now with the internet, you can usually search them up. You can find them, which should have done beforehand, should have done my homework. So that's on me. So a lot of this whole story comes back to me and not having done my homework, not having done my research a little bit more. But sometimes it pays to pay a little bit more and maybe be uncomfortable with your paying, because that discomfort in the short term is going to more than make up for the long-term annoyance discomfort over the long haul. So I like to connect things in a more universal principle. So the principle in this is you try to take shortcuts in the short term. You try to look for deals. You try to look for shortcuts. Try to take the easy way, because we could have paid a little bit more, but we wanted a good deal. Right? I understand if you're not able to and you don't have time and place, you have to bargain shop. That's not what I'm talking about. If you have the ability, spend the time, spend the energy, spend the money to do it right. We can fall into this pitfall in any area of life. So let's talk relationally. It is easy for me to use the words, I love you. That's cheap to my wife. It's much more difficult to exemplify that in sacrificial service, to do acts of service, washing the dishes, vacuuming the floor, which now I should probably vacuum the floor after this because it's on my mind. But that takes something from you, right? That's a lot more costly to me. But in the short term, yes, just saying I love you and saying, hey, that I've done my job. I've told Jaleesa, my wife, that I loved her and I can go about my day. Versus taking more time on my day, doing the dishes, vacuuming the floor. That's going to take more time on my day in the micro sense. But in the macro sense, the more time I take, the more I invest, the more energy I expend, the better it's going to equate for our relationship and for Jaleesa in the long run, right? If I continually just do these cheap acts of service, I use cheap words, what does it look like in the long run? If I'm seeking cheap shingles, cheap solutions for problems I have, what does that mean in the long run? If I'm continually searching out cheap remedies for my physical fitness, A, I'm probably just going to get bored of it. It's not going to work because it's not working. And B, it's not going to work. And over the short term, hey, it just didn't work. The long haul, that's where chronic disease starts to develop. That's where aches and pains and all these different things start to develop in your life. So look at your life holistically and say, am I bargain finding? Am I being cheap in places I shouldn't be cheap? Am I being cheap with my words because I'm guarding my time and energy too much? Am I being cheap in the services I'm looking for? And that's actually going to be more costly in the long run? Am I living a cheap spiritual life where I say, I believe, and this is, as I say this is condemning to me, this weighs on me. So I'm not saying this and saying that I'm perfect at it, but am I living a fruitful life as a Christian? Am I actually stepping out in faith and being Christ-like and serving and sacrificing my money, my time, my energy in the pursuit of serving others and sharing the gospel with others? Or am I reading my Bible, praying for me? Am I being cheap in that way? Or am I filling my cup, asking for the Holy Spirit to fill me up, spending time with the Lord so that I can then give more? How are you living? Are you living cheaply? And again, I'm not talking about if you have to find a good bargain. I'm not talking about if you don't have a lot, but what is your posture? What is your mindset? Because scarcity can be a mindset. Abundance can be a mindset. If you live as if you have limited, scarce energy and things to give, no matter how much you have or don't have, that's not going to change, because that's a heart posture. That's a mindset, right? Where your mind goes, your heart goes, or your heart goes, your mind goes. So that's a mindset and a heart posture. So you need to look at yourself and say, hey, if I've had plenty, if I've had little, am I continually giving? Am I continually serving? Am I looking for the cheapest way? And I mean cheapest way in terms of it doesn't cost me my time, my money, my energy, because I'm looking out for I instead of we. Am I looking to others to serve? Am I looking to others to give? Am I looking to spend time with the Lord to, again, fill me up, to be more Christ-like, to serve and love others as He has called us to do? And sometimes, and I go back to where I had the moment, and you probably saw my face, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't always say, this is great in restaurants, because what that then does is, if it's not great and someone other than me gets really angry, leaves a bad review, and another person does, and another person does that, that could be costly in the long run to that business. So you just saw this whole story arc of me coming to realization that that's not good of me to do. That's deceitful. So I repent of that openly on here and say, I shouldn't do that. I can do it lovingly, but that's another thing too. Are you being cheap and withholding loving truth from those you're connected with? I'm not saying go everywhere and just tell people whatever is wrong. But if you know that it's going to be costly for them and to them in the long run, are you being cheap and withholding that from them because you're actually being selfish, because you don't want the discomfort of them being upset at you? But you know, over the long run, you can see that foreshadowing of it being costly to them in their life and others around them. That ripple effect will happen. So this was good. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening in, and appreciate you all. Let me know if you had a good laugh as you saw my realization of, hey, maybe I'm being hypocritical in exactly the thing I'm telling and sharing people should do. Let me know your biggest takeaway. If you found this beneficial, I invite you to subscribe. There'll be some more videos at the end of this one that might be aligned with something you like. Who knows? Until next time, earn your dopamine.